sell for $160 to $200, but that's like an annual salary. Well, it's a quarter of a month's salary for a school teacher. So I started working on this, and it seemed like everybody in the world was either, like there's a woman from Utah, she has people sew these things. She goes to Kenya, she goes to mattress companies and wool companies, gets the fragments, the remnants, goes out and shows the women, gives them away. So what we're doing is on October the 10th, we started treadle sewing machine lessons for 16 women. And then those 16 women have, this is one of the insulated cookers that they made, and this is what is used as the insulation. This happens to be from Mark Brown's pecan grove, because I didn't carry it back over, but it took it out and they stuffed it with grass. The insulation quality of grass in this is within 2 degrees after 3 hours of polystyrene beads, which is what's recommended by lots of people. So, so when we went over there, my first day in the village was October the 10th, and that's when we started the sewing lessons. And they did not know that this is one of the things on the agenda, was to make these insulated containers. So, tongue in cheek, my biggest problem with getting the women to do this right is to hook up all their thermometer stuff. This $100, no, never mind. That's my part of it. So this is a pillow. This is a pillow, and I'll dismantle it. But the reason I have all these thermometers is that when you use an infrared thermometer on the surface, you think there's no heat loss because it's the same as air temperature. But you put this probe 1 centimeter down in there, and it's running, everything that I do is centigrade. So it's running 40 degrees, which is pretty hot. So that's the pillow.
40 degrees centigrade?
Yeah.
That's very hot.
Yeah.
That's 90, right?
This is
No, 100 and 104.
This is to insulate for cooking, so
Yes.
temperatures are going to be higher. Yeah.
No, well, they're not. In Fahrenheit, they sound higher. I'm sorry. So,
I mean, I meant hotter than body temperature is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, 37 is body temperature.
Right.
So the objective is to bring any food to a boil, not simmer at all, and put it in this container and have it finish cooking.
Okay.
That works really well with everything except the big beans. Everything else we can get to cook. No simmering. My biggest problem when I first got there, I knew this was going to be a problem, but I didn't realize how much. They're at 1,500 meters above sea level, which means the boiling temperature is 95. I could get beans to cook here. Beans there, they were always crunchy. 95%, we evaluate 95% cooked. So that was one of my main issues. The other one was we were working with an organization, the name not important, Mr. Wave, and I had 2 of their staff members that I was teaching them so they could teach the women. I don't want to be the one teaching the women. I could not figure out why they were so dense. And one of them has a bachelor's degree in entomology, but my cohort there had already said he has no imagination and not very creative. And I found that's true. So it's,
can we go back to the PhD?
yes. Well, actually, we've talked about wood, we've talked about what I like to do is take very basic science and do very simple applications.
Sure.
And I don't know of anybody in the world that's teaching the women how to do it themselves. And the only reason we're making this out of cloth is we were also giving them sewing lessons. It could be baskets. It could be a basket made out of grass. It does not have to have any cost. This cost of this cloth there, retail, is about $10. But if we buy it wholesale, we can get it down to $7. And I don't know why this is. Oh, I know what this is. This is called an Inkbird, and it sends me messages, and I got to shut it off. It's a barbecue grill thermometer, which is fantastic because it'll send me the message. I can download it to my computer and put it on Excel and graph it.
You get the message?
And it's a $100 device. So
we're all getting the
The
message.
train is coming in.
yeah. So this yesterday I finally 2 days ago realized there is a way to cook beans here. So this I tried yesterday and it worked.
Come on.
So the part that is, it's going to be difficult to teach these women all of the different things. We've been in several of their homes. One home we went into, the women were sharp and they had a daughter who was in 9th grade and her English is good and they're going to do well. right, so this is the kind of cooking pot that they use. This is from Tanzania. This is my temperature gauge for the temperature of the liquid. So I'll get all these temperature things out of the way. But the reason we're using this pattern is it's really, really simple. They're much more complicated. This goes in here, and if your pot is smaller, you can change the. This is all just grass. You can just make it smaller and bigger.
There's some below it as well.
There's grass.
There's a floor at the bottom.
Yes, 3 or 4 inches. However, I put thermometers underneath. The amount of movement downwards is not much. The big one is up through here.
Yeah.
And for some of you who understand the physics, they will probably not use aluminum foil, but if you do not seal this pot, it takes 70 calories to get water from room temperature to boiling. What did I just say? 1 gram. I didn't say what. To get 1 gram. Every gram that disappears out the top takes away 540.
Ouch.
So without using aluminum foil, we lose 200 grams of water. With aluminum foil, 20. And at the end of 3 hours, there's a 4 degrees difference in the temperature between the two.
Is that the density of aluminum foil versus?
No, it's purely just to sealing the moisture
what
from getting
it-
out. It's
okay.
purely, it could be a plastic film if it wouldn't melt.
I was gonna say, that suggests improving the pot lid to me.
It is, but these are the pots they use.
Okay, I'm just like.
It is.
I mean,
You're right.
you could imagine putting, I'm just gonna call it a gasket around there and putting a weight on the top of the
There's all
lid.
kinds of methods, and
Yeah.
I chose this one.
Yeah, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
you said they don't have aluminum foil as well.
No, they do have aluminum foil.
Oh, they do, okay.
Excuse me, there's aluminum foil in the town. The women have never even seen aluminum foil before. My wife
I
she
see.
works at the school. These are high school students. She took the foil to the school. They didn't know what foil was.
Okay, but it's not, it's available to them,
It's
they just
available.
have never seen it.
It's
Okay.
available.
I misunderstood.
To who?
Expense.
It's reasonable compared to if an urban woman buys wood to cook beans, she'll spend more on the wood than she does on the beans. For a rural woman, she is carrying 2 50-pound loads of wood a week from the forest,
Right,
and legally she's not supposed to cut anything down. Well, there's no way that she's not cutting it down anymore because the forests are just plain disappearing. They're just disappearing. And you see headloads of it going to market every Sunday and Thursday, so it's being cut down.
So this is gonna solve the deforestation.
So this, coupled with our planting of trees, this easily, since this eliminates simmering, for rice, which at that elevation simmers for 20 minutes, it's gonna, and the bring to boil is 10 minutes. Simmering doesn't take quite as much wood as bring to boil per 10-minute period, but you're gonna save half the wood. If beans, it takes 90 minutes of simmering at that elevation, 10 minutes to bring it to boil, you're saving 3/4 of your wood. Which
So
which is much more than the efficient cook stoves, and that's what all the scientists are doing their work on. I guess it's testosterone, they want to see a fire, and I want to see no fire.
Could I ask you where these beans are coming from?
They grow them.
They do? And there's no attempted hybridizing
Now you're trying to think of a complicated solution.
you mean like an easier to cook bean, is that what you're thinking?
All right, we
Yeah,
tried red
easier to
kidney
cook
beans.
beans.
We tried red kidney beans in the future, which in the beginning, because it's one of the more desirable. This is the most desirable, and it's I guess it's a Great Northern. They call it soya nanja, which is not soy. It's not soy at all. It's a regular old bean. Then they.
Most desirable, why?
Now, mung beans, you wouldn't have any trouble with a small bean. Mung beans and maybe
You're saying
some of
desirable for cooking, so what makes it desirable?
they like it. They like it. It grows well.
They like to eat it. That's
Yes,
good.
they like it, and it's a relatively cool season crop, short season, and people think the tropics is hot. We're at 3 degrees south latitude, and the highest temperature is 88 Fahrenheit ever. It's high elevation. So the other thing that is the predominant thing they eat is corn, and preferably white corn. And this is whole white corn. If you're in a poor family and you can't afford grinding, this would be what you would eat. It's used to make only this or this with beans and this with beans and onions and all kinds of other vegetables. Or, when you cook this to completion, which I have some here that I completed this morning, and you can taste them if you want, it's still crunchy. And it's not really white. So people all over the world want to eat white carbs, white rice, white
Does it have
potatoes, white
protein?
sweet potatoes. What?
Does it have protein?
Oh yeah, it's definitely got protein.
All right, here's a misnomer on protein. We tend to talk about the protein food, and I'd rather talk about which food do you get your most protein from.
Right, sure.
Corn, whole corn is 9% protein.
9 or 90?
Nine. Beans are 23. Both dry matter. Potatoes, dry 5. Rice 6. Corn 9. Wheat 12.
Hamburger?
The non-moisture part, the dry part, would be nearly 100%. The point being is that if you are an active, energetic person, you can live and get all your protein on corn, which is not what nutritionists will say. In fact, I've been in nutrition labs where I wanted to put in the the World Health Organization and the USDA numbers, and they override it by saying 20% of your protein should come, 20% of your diet should be protein, and they don't allow you to put in, anyway, that's another subject. So what they would prefer is to,
Take care.
I guess I better talk faster because I'm boring people already. Instead of whole corn, they would rather take and sprinkle a little water on the whole corn and run it through a milling device that just cracks it, and it produces a cracked corn without the outside and without the embryo. And that has just reduced the protein to about 7%, and I don't know what it does to the minerals and vitamins, but it reduces them a bunch too. But this is more digestible.
What's the word on there?
Makandi corn.
Makandi.
It's no pericarp or endosperm, but I'll pass it around. These are the two corns, and what's left over is what they call pumba, which is the pericarp and embryo. And in some parts of the world where they first were studying the role of vitamins, they could see that the chickens were healthy and the people were not. The chickens were eating this and the people were eating that. And
Does that taste bad?
They don't eat
Why
it.
don't people want to eat that?
Because the whole corn is a little bit crunchy, and for some reason people want white.
Okay, so
International Rice Research Institute has bred yellow rice. Old people in India will not eat yellow rice. It has vitamin A, they want white rice.
and then they wouldn't even consider dirty rice, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm making a
Or
joke.
whole grain rice.
Off-white.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of New Orleans. Dirty rice.
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
So the beans that aren't being cooked properly, could they be milled a little bit?
you
in
know,
order
I've
to-
wondered about that, but I have never ever seen anybody crack or pulverize a bean. It must be the texture changes or something, but
Okay.
this, okay, so it's amazing how slow things come to my head, but 24 hours ago, I realized we can bring this to a boil, and I did this yesterday, and I brought it to 95 degrees because that's what their boiling temperature is. Then I let it sit in here for an hour, and at that point it's 87 degrees. I think, without any data, that beans don't cook below 80. And that I looked for the data, and I've bought a sous vide thing, and I'm going to test that. But anyway, at 87, I took it off, took it back to 95, and now since this thing is already heated up after an hour, instead of being at 87, it's at 89, and this is the first time I've ever, by only taking the temperature up to 95, to be able to get the beans to cook.
So you're trying to mirror what it is on site in Africa. Your
Yes.
95 is
Yeah,
just to
thank you.
state that as a
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten them to cook when I take it up to boiling, up to 100. but-
Yeah.
So this is the bean, and they're very, very, these two were mixed together in the pot which would be what they call makande, and they might add, there's no salt, so it doesn't taste very
Was
good.
It's like, that looks like peanuts.
I saw that movie.
Well, peanuts,
Well, it's just, it happens to be this yellow bean.
yeah.
When you
He
say
said not eat the
makande,
brown
you mean
ones.
this corn is in
The
it?
makande is the cracked corn.
Is that what's in that? Yeah.
No, what
Well, in that case-
I cooked was the
Magic
whole
beans.
corn because that's a little harder to cook because it's bigger pieces, and I tried it first.
Okay. And is the definition of cooking here, this is gonna get too technical really quick, but is the definition of cooking here denaturing the protein?
I think the definition of cooking in this case, does it taste
Don't eat
palatable?
the orange ones.
Does it
Purely
taste
about
palatable?
will humans eat it, basically?
Yes.
Tenderize it.
However, your definition is very important because red kidney beans have some phytotoxins, some toxins. You have to bring it to, the literature says to boiling temperature. I don't know what that means. Could you bring it to 92 degrees if you were at 9,000 feet above sea level? I don't know what that means, but
So Cliff, I missed a part. You don't set this on fire. You cook it someplace else and keep this warm to keep it at boiling temperature?
you put this on the fire.
Yeah.
You put your lid, you put your water, your lid, your salt, your onions, your tomatoes. And I put a thermometer, which like I said, I'm having trouble getting the women to do their $100 thermometer correctly, but that's obviously being quite facetious. You bring it to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, it goes in here. The lid goes on. That's it.
And it keeps it at a temperature much
The
longer
temperature
than,
is always declining,
right.
and always before yesterday, the temperature has declined below this magic number, which I don't know is true, below 80, and it never fully cooks.
But this prevents the
That made
necessity.
it cook, when you put the aluminum foil.
No, excuse me, the aluminum foil adds 3 or 4 degrees. It still does not make it cook if 95 is the boiling. If 100 is the boiling, yes. But what I did yesterday was after 1 hour, it dropped from 95 to 87. I took it out to bring it from 87 back to 95 with very little fuel. Put it back in there, and the companies that sell these things will say,
I can live on that.
simmer it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes before you put it in there. Well, simmering is using fuel.
Right.
And if you're on an outdoor fire and you got a little breeze, it's using lots of fuel, almost the same amount per 10 minutes as it does to bring it to boiling.
Yeah, there's a key point there.